All right, we have a bunch of people logged on, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome everyone to the Pragmatic Institute Ask Me Anything sessions. So good to have you, and welcome back if you're returning again. A reminder, if you are comfortable with it and if it's possible, turn your cameras on. We love to see your smiling faces, and it just makes it that much easier for our instructor slash presenter to see some real people out there instead of the black squares. So if you have questions during the course, this is an Ask Me Anything open session. So you can do that in a couple ways. You can post them into the chat. You can send those either to the whole group if you like, or you can send them just to me, Eddie Gordon, the host, and I will kick them over to our instructor who'll be answering questions. It's pretty free form though, and there aren't that many of us. So if you need a clarification to anything that the instructor is talking about, we'll invite you. You can unmute and interact directly as well. So we're loosey-goosey in this kind of session, so it should be fun. One housekeeping item to begin with. I want to remind everyone, if you haven't checked it out yet, check out the Pragmatic the Pragmatic Institute online community. This is a brand new program from Pragmatic Institute, the PAC, as we call it. In there, you will find a curated library, peer discussion groups. The instructors will be in there interacting as well. This is a wonderful resource. If you missed the Pragmatic Alumni Community Open House that was on the 10th, you can still find information about that. Check out the link that Callie will share in the chat, and you can check that out. Also, you can just go straight to pragmaticinstitute.com/community to see what that is all about. That is not the normal Pragmatic Alumni Resource Center. This is brand new and exclusive, so check it out. It will be a great resource for your product needs. All right, and with that, I get to introduce one of my favorite instructors. They tease me. They say that I say that every time, but
you do.
This is a special lady. Please welcome Cindy Cruzado, Pragmatic Instructor Extraordinaire. Welcome, Cindy. How are you today?
Doing really well. Doing really. Thank you very much.
Let us jump into some of our questions. We've got some that were submitted in advance for this session, but again, if you have some that you'd like to submit, stick them in the chat for us and we will prioritize those because you are here. The first one that I've got for you, Cindy, comes from John, who asks, are there any definitive definitions for product positions? It seems like companies are seeking a mixture of skills from project management, program management, product management, and agile product owner. I'd love your take on the subject. Can you narrow down a job description for us there for product positions?
Sure. This is sometimes a little bit of quicksand, right? This is one of those things that we think there's a common definition of these roles, and it could be interpreted in a lot of different ways. But in a product company, when I say product, it doesn't really matter if you're hardware, software, subscription, or service, something like that. We have a tendency to think about roles as perhaps more operational or internal development-oriented product team roles, or kind of the opposite spectrum of that, roles in product that we might view as more strategic, as more outward facing, perhaps focusing a little more broadly across stakeholders in different business units in a bigger company. And so with that kind of a loose definition, as you know, with the pragmatic framework, there's 37 activities, and we can group these activities to kind of describe a lot of different roles. But on the more inward facing side, we often hear about product owner, business analyst, technical product manager. Now, these are very specific roles. And while the titles are different, they could all be responsible for the same number of activities in the pragmatic framework. If a team is working with a particular agile methodology, maybe the role is a little more focused on product owner, which is kind of has a job description in that team. But in general, those three titles do the same kind of job. They're focused on translating business requirements into the details to get a solution built. If you think about the other spectrum of a role in product, spending more time commercially and with stakeholders and outside of a Scrum team or an Agile team, then we traditionally call them product manager. Or if they focus a little bit more in the marketing organization, there might be a real definition around product marketing manager. Again, it's which of the activities in the framework are they spending most of their time on and accountable. There's also an industry view of those roles. Somebody could be working on multiple products within a product line and maybe focusing in on an industry. And so you can see a vertical product manager or a segment product manager. And that really is the same product management role, a little more externally focusing, but with a focus in the market in a particular domain area. And so I'll just leave it at that, but I think that's a great baseline understanding of where a company starts to think about roles.
Beautiful. You'd think it'd be somebody's job to standardize all that, right? Life would be so much easier.
Yeah, it's hard. We don't see a lot of standardization, right? And that's okay. Okay, every company has a little bit of a different culture, thinks of things different. They have skills that maybe they're growing into, and so maybe the title fits. So.
Notice Vishal has a question about certifications. Are you ready for that, Cindy?
Sure, go ahead.
He says, no offense, and surely I have all respect for Pragmatic Institute, none taken. We love the questions, thank you. I have been told by a few others to pursue this. What's the difference between the certifications offered by Pragmatic versus others, such as APAM or 280 Management, etc.? What is the difference? Why are our certifications any different than anybody else's? Cindy?
Yeah, sure. So let me start by giving you, Vishal, just a tiny bit of insight into my own background, okay? Would that be all right? All right. And so feel free to come off of mute, by the way. Don't mind any follow-up questions around this. But I started in product 29 years ago, and that makes me really old. And about 2 years into the job, realized it was a really hard job. I really felt like I didn't know what I was doing. And I went to my first class in actually 1996, and it was Pragmatic. We have been around 3 decades, perhaps. And from my own personal experience, we have been growing with this massive industry we have around innovation, focusing in on product companies and helping product companies be more effective in their innovation. So we have a lot of experience working through what was product management back in the mid-90s to what is it now in the early 2000s. I went back to training a couple of times. I brought my teams, I brought Pragmatic in, and definitely loved the fact that Pragmatic was on the cutting edge of understanding how our industry was growing, how there were new tools for us to use that made us more effective. We were at that time going through adopting agile practices, putting in place retrospectives, bringing end users closer to the work that we're doing. And so the curriculum changed to match that. I always felt always a step ahead of where I was as an individual. Kind of fast forward a little bit to 2020, and I have been an instructor now for 2.5 years at Pragmatic. I see how we do that. The DNA at Pragmatic is to be bringing the the next wave of what are the best practices in the industry around our job. 2 years ago, almost just 2 years ago, we extended our curriculum into data science. And that is just yet that additional way. And I can tell you from the front of the room, teaching classes around the world at Pragmatic, data science is how we learn often about some great opportunities, helps us validate ideas that we might come up with. And it is really, the tools are so much more accessible to actually mine data that it's now becoming more of a best practice for product managers to not just write requirements and spend time in the market, but to be great at data science as well. So I wanted to start with my own experience there and tell you that we have been around a lot. We are very innovative as a company. We drink our own champagne, if you like, around everything that we teach. We do ourselves. And so we're very practical. We are very busy people as product people. We need to vet ideas quickly. We need to respond to the organization quickly. And so doing the job in a best practice way with tools and templates that really work is what we're known for. And I think that's key to how we stand out to others. And that's what I hear from the classrooms as well.
So is it very hands-on, workshop oriented and oriented?
We
a 2-day workshop or something, right, to get certified?
Yeah, it is. So I will tell you, I teach all of our classes in our product side. One of the instructors that teaches the whole curriculum there, and teach it online, as well as teach it face-to-face in public classes or on site. And so, I'll tell you that we are very engagement focused. It's not to me about doing a workshop or not doing a workshop. Is everybody who's staring at me on the screen here understanding? Do we need to have a little discussion? Do I tell a story to kind of illustrate what I'm teaching? How about I break you out into small teams and give you something to think through, learn from each other, and then come back and I'll give you a little critique? We engage every minute throughout a 3.5-hour session, and then we come give you homework and you come back. And one of the things, I taught a 2-day class this week, and one of the things that I hear in reviews at the end of that is that I learned so much. You kept my attention for 4 hours when there's so many distractions going on, around us. So yes, very engagement oriented. We want you to get a certification that is very valuable in the employment market today. And so we teach to help you get to that.
Okay, and should the person, this last question, sorry, I know there's another question waiting. Should the person start with Pragmatic Marketing Certification or Pragmatic Product Management? I believe Product Management is a newer certification that you guys are offering.
So we have 6 courses in our curriculum. There is one that I would say always start with, and it's the fundamentals of being a market-driven organization, right? That's our foundations course. But if your role, either today or what you're aspiring to, is a little bit more about the management and marketing of your technology products, then maybe getting into the focus and building of that, of our curriculum will help you immediately. If you are already in a product organization and looking to expand your skill set beyond product management, the growth mindset of revenue and retention and buyer experience is often what product marketing might be focusing on, or a strategic leader might do both. And so we have other courses that will help you do that. Getting to the certification we call Product Mastery is very sought after, and it is actually 6 courses, all 6, but in any order that suits you and that continues to build on your skills.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Great
Michelle,
question.
wonderful questions. Thanks for letting us talk about ourselves a little bit. That's kind of fun. I know one of my favorite things to see are job postings that either request or sometimes even require pragmatic certification right there in the job posting, which is exciting to see. You know, in fact, Norm just posted here, pragmatic is the preferred choice among employers. You know, the industry standard is the phrase that we use quite often. So thank
I
you
know I
so
certainly,
much.
when I would post a job description, last two companies I was VP of product, I was always looking for somebody who would think in the most curious way. And pragmatic certification gave me already kind of a little bit of a check mark that person had that right curiosity and mindset that I was looking for, to give you the other side of that piece. So.
Okay. So basically what you did say is if you are focused on a role that would address business objective issue and be able to develop a vision. So business objectives increase retention or engagement or revenue or something. Then you want to start thinking about foundations and pragmatic marketing, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We have a really good synopsis on each one of our courses that kind of gives you the competencies that you will get and learn and practice through each of those courses. Pick one that kind of expands your skill set today, and then the path kind of forward from there will become a little clearer.
Cool. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Vishal. Katal has a question. I'm going to switch gears on you, Cindy. Katal says, I am enjoying this call. Well, thank you very much. That's nice. I am an engineer, technical guy who ended up going deeper into the medical industry, working in IT, managing portfolios of the solutions that I made. Now I want to evolve to product management for medical devices and wanted to see if you see transitions from these areas often. He's got a second question here. Are there alumni events or ways to connect with the alumni? Maybe let's tackle that easy one first. Yes, there are such things. You can find, first of all, the Pragmatic LinkedIn page. You can find alumni on there. You can also check out the Pragmatic Alumni Community. That's the new pack that I was talking about at the top of the hour. And then what else, Cindy? What other ways can they get together and chat with each other?
Connect with the instructors that you meet online. Always a great way. You start to build out a lot of additional networking resources, perhaps even in the domain area that you're in, which I think is even more helpful.
Yeah. So then back to the first part of that question, an engineer technical guy ended up working in the medical industry, IT, but want to evolve to product management for medical devices. Do you see that kind of transition often, Cindy? Has he got a bumpy road ahead of him there?
No bumpy road. I'm sorry to say, no bumpy road. Here's the real truth when it comes to coming into product management. We don't walk out of our high school or graduate degrees being product managers. None of us do. I started in technical support and I managed the technical support, helped us get my first software company for 2 years. And I was very service and very IT oriented, actually. But what we do is we learn about the markets, we become extremely valuable. And when the company has a role where we need to take that knowledge and shape it into our new vision and what we're kind of bringing out to market, we often find ourselves landing in this product management kind of a role. And so you are bringing already domain experience. IT experience translates to me to the ability to manage lots of different projects, lots of different technologies, and apply them to solve a lot of different problems. And really at the heart of it, that's what product management is all about. And so I think one of the things that you need to be able to do and feel comfortable with is translating the work you've done, the projects you've done, to the product management world so you can show somebody who may not see that you've been in the product management role already, but they can see you've got the competencies, the skill, you're going to do just fine. Now, this is one of those things that I sometimes get direct questions. Here's my background. What could I call out? And how do I do this? What are a couple bullet points or scripts? to do that. But if you come to Pragmatic training and you come to the first course, have you been to training, by the way? You can just give me a thumbs up on the screen, do a reaction or something.
Oh, he says no, he has not.
No, okay.
Not yet. He says
Not yet. Okay,
There
right.
we go.
So let me give you two things here, because I think this is one of the most valuable ways for you to show your value in your experience as you move into product management. Our pragmatic framework, our blueprint for managing and marketing technology products is up on our website. Take a look at that. And there are 37 activities that product management is really focused on. Look at those activities and the short descriptions of them and see which ones apply to projects you have done in your career. And if you can imagine yourselves in talking to a department head in product management that you want to move into, or a new role you want to move into, they're going to be thinking about the pragmatic framework. And if you could show and apply your experience to the boxes that are in there, then you're already kind of ahead of others in applying your experience there. The thing I will tell you, you've spent some time in medical devices. That's great. It's very valuable, but it kind of loses its value over time if you're not doing things to stay in that industry and with that industry. So if you're really passionate about medical devices, then perhaps join an association, show that, you are continuing to learn about the evolving issues in that particular industry and staying up to date, even though you may not be spending all your time in there. So a few things to think about.
And then how's this for a level of service? Over in the chat, Katal, looks like Callie just posted a link to the framework that Cindy was just talking about. And Sarah mentioned another resource for getting together with alumni and finding out what's going on. You can check the live events page on our website, pragmaticinstitute.com. And there you go. That should give you some stuff to work on. Have fun with that. You're very welcome.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
And here, Cindy, is a question submitted by Sakay, who asks, what to do in the first 90 days as a product marketer? What are the most common mistakes people make during that first 90 days? What have you seen?
I have one big piece of advice for you. The first 90 days, try to spend as very, very little time in the office. And we're virtual, right? So this is about spending time in meetings with other people other than the people that you work with. I'm jesting a little bit on how much time that you would do with that, but you have an incredibly valuable opportunity before you learn the ins and outs of how a new team or product works, to actually learn about the market that you would be building solutions for, that you would be interfacing with. Spend as much time as you can doing visits, interviews, observations, going to and looking at how people are doing the job today that your solution is going to help them with. And then document that. Document it so you can come back to it as you start to do the job. We have lots of different things and tools in our Alumni Resource Center that help you not only do those visits, not only plan those visits, but document them and leverage them to become a really effective product leader.
Beautiful. Here's another one, Cindy, from Elizabeth, who asks, what are some easy and repeatable ways that I can increase my time to market when launching a new product?
I'm chuckling a little bit. We always want the easy way, right? So I'll say easy is subjective. It might be easy for somebody and hard from another, but repeatable is absolutely achievable, right? To increase your time to market when launching a new product, the number one thing that I would do is start early and start by one of the artifacts, and one of the things that we talk about in one of our classes is positioning. And, whether it's you or whether it's somebody else in the product team that is going to be developing positioning around a new release, new set of capabilities, a new service, or a whole new product, whatever it is, that positioning is what kicks off the team that builds a solution really on before they've written anything, before they've built anything. Get involved there and understand what that positioning is. Or if positioning doesn't exist, build it with them at the very beginning of the project. What that will do is help you with so many questions and help you form a strategy for your launch before you get into the what I'll call frenetic pace of launch and building tools, writing things. You know how crazy it can get the closer you get to the launch day. And so positioning helps you set your launch goals. It helps you really define the success criteria for a launch. If you give yourself the time to do that and do it well and do it in partnership with the people building the solution, you're going to have a much more successful launch. I think that's the secret to feeling like we're increasing our time to market. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, it sounds like Elizabeth has too much to do and not enough time to do it in, but there is hope.
There is hope. Yes, yes.
Here's one for you, Cindy. Some of our newly delivered features are not being used by customers, and we are trying to diagnose why. Any ideas?
Oh man, that's heartbreaking. I've had that happen.
Yeah.
I've had that happen. You'll be, you're in good company, okay, when that happens. A couple of things come to mind. If you're looking at data, maybe you're looking at usage data or adoption data, it's aggregated, right? So you don't really know why any individual user started to use something and stopped, or maybe has never used it. But could you break that data down into a little bit more granularity in this way? Could you look at the data and the adoption of those features in terms of downloading, installing, the steps to get somebody up to speed on it before they actually start to use it? Do you see any of the additional insights into, it took people a long time to go through the adoption and learning. There was a big time gap between them downloading it and actually using it. That might give you some context that the onboarding of the new feature, the training of the new feature was where there was more difficulty. It might give you a little bit of insight there. The other side of this is after they're onboarded, after they're trained, how much adoption, how many times do they use the feature? Do they use it continuously? Are there any patterns in the actual use of the feature? Do they, I can think of 3 different groups that you might identify, right? Those who never used it as one group, those who got in, used it, and then stopped using it. And then the happy path, right? Those who use it and are continuing to use it. And the reason why you would want to do that is, can you identify people to go talk to in each of those 3 groups? Could you find 2 or 3 end users that fall into each of those groups and, get on a virtual meeting with them and ask them some leading open-ended questions that kind of give you some insight into what their user experience is. Because you might find that there are some users that need a little additional feature, need a little additional service or training to help them adopt that. So I'll leave it at that. But I think one of the big takeaways is that data only gets you so far. You've got to get out and talk to people to really get the context to help you figure out what to do next.
I know, speaking from my own experience, there have surely been times when I started using a product because it promised to solve some problem that I had.
Yeah.
And then very quickly I realized, well, it kind of solves the problem, but it creates 3 others. And so I stopped using it. And I don't know that they anticipated that it would create those new problems for me. Yes, it kind of solves the problem, but
Yeah.
it's not worth it if it's that much of a hassle. So there could be situations like that going on there where
It might drive
you
new
don't
change.
realize.
Yeah, you might
Yeah.
drive new change into the product or services or all kinds of things. So you're right.
What about there may even be an element of we talked about this a little bit with Paul last week, but changing costs going on. If they have a solution and yours is definitely better, but the cost to switch over from one to the other is just too high, maybe.
Yeah, and costs are not just monetary, right?
Yeah.
It's are you willing to give up information, more information about yourself to do it? Some people are not willing to do that. Cost and
Switching
time.
costs.
Yeah.
That's what I call them. Yeah. Excellent. Thank you very much. Here is the next one, Cindy. They ask, what do you
We
think
see a
are
lot of
some of the...
people in chat here. Does anybody have a question for us? Feel free.
We've got another pre-submitted one here. They asked, what do you think are some of the best ways to go about customer retention, and how does customer retention differ from that of customer loyalty? Are they the same? Good question.
Let me take the last part of that first. Customer retention, customer loyalty are very different. Think about what loyalty is, and it may be different for different products, but the ultimate in loyalty, we often think if we have let's say a subscription business, that when a customer signs up for a 1-year subscription, or a 2-year subscription, we go, they're very loyal. They're going to be with us for a long time. But compare that to this scenario, right? What my husband loves Diet Coke, right? I'm harping on him all the time, but every single day he'll go buy a Diet Coke if he's got his mind to it, right? Imagine the loyalty to Diet Coke. He's making that buy decision every single day. Compare that kind of loyalty to somebody who buys a subscription for your product once and doesn't buy it again for 2 years. So it's not how long they are planning to be with you as a customer. Well, that's really important. It's how often do they make that commitment to you as a customer. And ultimate loyalty is people making that commitment over and over and over again. And so when we think about the revenue that our companies generate around retention, we need to think about both parts of this. We certainly want people to commit long-term and show their commit, and they often will get a discount rate to commit longer term. But while they are a customer with us, we have to be focused on continuing that loyalty, continuing to work with the strategic buyers and the users to show them the value that they're getting out of the solution, so that they're nodding and committing and seeing the value and developing that kind of Diet Coke loyalty that I described. Okay, so that's the key difference between them. I've totally forgotten the first part of the question, Eddie.
That was what do you think are some of the best ways to go about customer retention, and how does customer retention differ? I think you...
Okay. Well, my favorite thing when we think about retention plans, my favorite thing to think about is which parts of our customer base are we trying to retain? Because they're not all the same. We often have very large customer bases, and the programs that we want to develop, the conversations and messages and tips and tricks that we want to put in front of them are going to be different depending on the segments of our customer base. And just to give you an example, we might have segments that adopt and use our products as is, out of the box. We might have segments of our customer base that take the core functionality and tailor it and customize it in a lot of different creative ways. And so segment the customer base and look at retention and look at what it's going to take to get Diet Coke loyalty, right? By segment. That's my best practice, because what that'll end up teaching you is that some segments are just fine and you don't need to touch base with them more than maybe once a quarter, maybe every 6 months. But maybe some segments are declining in their adoption and their loyalty. And that's where you want to invest more of your resources and campaigns and FaceTime in order to show them, reconnect them to the loyalty with your product. When you add up all the work that you're doing across a customer base to retain everybody, you'll get more headway by approaching it in that way.
Vishal, did you have a thought on that too? Or are you just showing us your face?
No, I was just typing on my thought on it.
We appreciate seeing you anyway. That's great. Thank you.
Thanks.
No, that's
but you're typing at the same time. Let's see what we've got here. Peter Fader from Wharton has some YouTube videos on customer centricity. That I believe this is closely what this is. Yeah, good resource. Thanks for that. Thank you.
I've been watching that video, so I don't understand everything, but I was kind of connecting the dots in what she was saying and what he's been saying. So.
Yeah. I've been lucky in my career to work in 5 completely different industries. And I learned about loyalty, and how different it was in consumer packaged goods and retail and store operations and, working with suppliers. In fact, who had almost every 2 weeks, they had to come up with a new season of their products and drive and increase loyalty. So it just reshapes the way you think about retention compared to, a software platform kind of a solution. So that's where it comes from.
Thanks.
Cindy, are you ready for a big one here about gap analysis?
Let's do it. Sure.
Put your gap analysis hat on. Ready?
Okay.
What are best practices for conducting your first internal gap analysis? Number of people, should sales and executives be involved? Who determines where our company is ultimately lacking? Who gets to say, yeah, that's not going so well?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things here. But number one, I would say we need to do the gap analysis to identify a baseline. If we're going to invest in improving, upskilling individuals, building out competencies, putting in some time to put process in and new deliverables, we have to show that we're making progress. So doing a gap analysis and having a baseline of how we do it today, whether we don't feel good about how well we're doing it, we don't give ourselves a very good grade today in some areas, that's not as important as getting to the starting point. So think of that first gap analysis as that baseline. In order to get a really good baseline, we need to have a very diverse set of roles sitting around the table. I love to have 10, maybe 12 individuals. A small group is really important to get really productive and into the details of a gap analysis. But that's just a guide. You've got to decide what a small group is for your organization. But when I say diverse set of roles, in the pragmatic framework, we have 37 activities. And so make sure that every activity is represented. And that means, yes, sales should be there. Yes, business unit leadership should be there. And that might be your CEO, right? We want to have technical leadership there. We want marketing, we want services there. And we're going to go through an assessment that some of the things we talk about are strategic activities like setting pricing and determining our roadmap. Some of the activities we're going to talk about are sales tools and campaign content. Some of them are going to be about, setting priorities for launch. We want everybody's perspective to be represented. And when we say, are we doing, we want to grade ourselves, we want everybody to chime in and give us an honest answer. Is this an F or is this an A, and why? And kind of understand that. Some of the most beneficial gap analysis I've ever been able to do is where we have a real heart to heart and we document it. And we give you the workbook and the tools to actually capture data from that conversation and turn it into some actionable next steps, kind of build out a 90-day plan for kind of incrementally improving from that baseline.
how about you ready to talk about product plans now, Cindy?
Sure, man. We're just covering all the bases today.
We are. We're gonna do the full gamut.
Okay.
People, everybody that comes to our AMAs are gonna get certified now. AMA certified. This person asks, I have a product idea and am currently recruiting people and resources to move forward. I need to create a product plan and was curious about the key issues to address when creating a business product plan for the first time.
Okay. Well, first of all, well done, right?
Yeah.
Takes a lot of tenacity to kind of take an idea and take it to those next steps. So I love it. I'm a fan of all of that, of course. I immediately thought of our focus class. The curriculum in our focus class is perfectly designed for you because it's really about strategic product planning and not only how you determine what the most important ideas are, but how you take those leading ideas and illustrate risk versus reward with the rest of your organization or with your investors, if it's that. And so when we're writing business cases or when we're thinking that through at a very high level, there are three groups of questions that you need to be really well prepared to answer. The first group of questions is really about the compelling numbers. This is where we get into a spreadsheet and we take the data and the research that we've done and we document the size of an opportunity. Size of opportunity is how can we make a really lucrative business out of this? Is the market big enough? And that's the kind of the key question you want to build confidence with your investors around. And so there's some real key data points that we teach you around what you need to bring to the table. The second part that you need to think through is really about what's the business strategy to go achieve the compelling numbers that you lay out. Are you going to build? Are you going to buy? Are you going to partner? How are you actually going to get the solutions to market? And then the last part of this, for a company that exists today, if you're doing this innovation and you already have a portfolio, the third set of things to think through are really about how does this new idea fit in to what you have? Are you filling a gap somewhere in your portfolio? Are you replacing something that doesn't perform as well with something new and innovative? Are you moving ahead and actually incrementally adding to your portfolio? How does it fit in? How would the story with this new innovation change for the better because you do it? And that's what I mean about that third area. But if you are starting a company around this idea for the very first time, take that third area and think about it for the people that have the problems you're trying to solve. How is their world going to change? How are you complementing or changing their portfolio or the tools they have today or the way they do business today, and have a really solid story to tell around that piece. Now, the details in there, what questions to ask, how to do that, how to document that, you'll learn that in our focus class.
Good plug, Cindy. You know, as much as I enjoy lobbing these over to you and watching you knock them out of the park every time, at some point we all have to put this useful information into action and get to work. So that's what we're all going to do now.
Okay.
We're going to get to work and get some stuff done. But thank you so much, Cindy. This has been wonderful. You're so good at this. I want to remind everybody we'll do this every Friday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Jump on in with some questions or just listen to other people's answers to their questions. What a cool resource to get to chat with one of our Pragmatic Institute instructors like this. If you can't wait till next Friday, join us Tuesday, June 16th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time for the next in our product chat series, where we will be joined by Rich Mironov. He's the product management guru at Mironov Consulting, and he will share his insights on the best ways to succeed as a product leader in a time of change, which this is. So be there for that. It should be wonderful. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, and everyone have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.
Actually,
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
I do have a quick question if you don't mind, Eddie.
One
2
more,
weeks
Cindy.
ago when I first joined, there was this gentleman who had joined just like you guys, like a lot of experience, and there was a reason I wanted to connect with him, but I can't remember his name.
Another instructor?
Yeah, it was like, 2 weeks ago when I had first joined. I think it was 2 weeks ago he had joined. I can't remember his name.
Would it be up on the YouTube channel? He could look at the video and identify the person?
Okay, yeah.
They
I believe
are
it
up
was
there,
Paul.
yeah. Paul Young, Sarah says, was that one 2 weeks ago. So take a look for Paul Young on our Pragmatic Institute YouTube channel, where all of these will be saved for you. There you go.
Cool. Sounds
Also,
good.
Vishal,
so much,
on our
Vishal.
website, there is a bio on every instructor and an email that you can reach
Okay.
out to them.
Awesome.
There you go.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for your questions.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.